Welcome to another episode of Leaders in Lending. I'm your host, Matt Snow. Today, joined by Chris Gifford, Chief Data and Analytics Officer from USAA. Chris, welcome.
Thank you, Matt. Good to see you again. It's been a while.
Yeah, good to see you. Always good to catch up. I know, it's been a while since we've worked together way back in the day. A lot's happened in data and analytics since then, so I'm really glad to be able to have some time to dig into that with you.
Yeah, back, when we were working together at Chase, I don't think our hair was gray and we might have had more of it. So it's been a while, but always good to check in. And what an exciting field that we're talking about, too. And so much has changed. It's hard to even keep up with.
It's true. And I was doing some research in preparation for our conversation. I wasn't sure I'd find anything, but do you know who and when the first chief data officer kind of came about?
No.
Well, unsurprisingly, it's in banking. So it was actually Capital One. Catherine Clay Doss seems to be referenced as the first chief data officer back in 2002. So, around that time we were together.
Wow, that is interesting. I hadn't looked that up, so I knew it's been around relatively short period of time, but very interesting. Cap One makes sense. They do a lot with data over there.
Absolutely. Well, maybe we can start with that. Maybe give a little bit of an overview of what the chief data and analytics officer role looks like at USAA. How did you come to that, and a little bit of your journey?
Yeah, so I'll take you back, not all the way to the very beginning, but as I was finishing school and looking for my first job, I took a job at GE Capital, answering the phones. Thank you for calling Monogram Bank USA. This is Chris Gifford, and so it's been a journey since then. But that was my very first job out of college. And while I was sitting there, I noticed that this terminal that was on the desk in front of me seemed to have capabilities. So I asked for the manual to it, and started writing macros to do my job because I was lazy but had the ability to try to figure out how to make the machine do it for me, and kind of launched into this journey of what we would today call robotic process automation. And I wrote a significant string of macros that did a bunch of my job, and my boss kind of tapped me on the shoulder and said, hey, why are your stats 35% better than everyone else on the floor and you have like zero errors? And so I showed them what I was doing, and they said, okay, fantastic, you do that now, you're off the phones. And that was kind of the first launch into data and analytics, computers, computer aid, computer assisted, even digital processing, robotic process automation, and just automation in general. So that started GE Capital. They have a great program. If they identify people with skills or the desire, they will train them. And so they put me through a lot of training. And I went from there into adaptive control systems, building models, back on the mainframe. I didn't use punch cards. I'm not that old, but I know a lot of people that did. But no, we were writing code on the mainframe, and a lot in SAS, but building algorithms and using those in our adaptive control system strategies to drive, credit card, line management, originations, authorizations, reissue, those sorts of things. From there, I went to Nations Bank down in Charlotte, North Carolina for a bit. This was prior to the B of A merger, doing more of the same, but a bigger portfolio. And then moved to Bank One in Columbus, Ohio, and survived all of those mergers up through and including Chase at the end of it. I spent 18 years at Chase doing more of the same. As I was leaving Chase, I was head of customer data and analytics, and really building out that full customer 360, bringing online data products for consumption in various use cases, and really trying to advance the use of modeling into all the decisions and optimization engines. So from a career standpoint, that's right at the last minute before I made the jump over to USAA.
Gotcha. And so what are some of your top priorities at USAA? Like, what are the challenges there that you guys are trying to solve with data and analytics?
Yeah, sure. So when I joined USAA, they weren't as far along, I guess, in their data journey as what Chase was, as you could imagine, Chase being a very, very large financial institution. So step one really was build a foundation of data, and it is get all of the data, get it cleaned, hygiened, available. We kind of skipped through some of the older evolutions of data and data warehousing. We didn't go to kind of the big industry third normal form warehouses, went more to a modern lakehouse architecture. And here most recently rehosted the entire analytics environment up on the cloud, where we can use entire lines of code to expand the universe, increase compute nodes, bring in other data sources. We're now working on implementing cloud native tools so we can do jobs end to end and stay in the cloud the entire time, really trying to press for speed and ease in the use. I think the other part that we've been working on is managing risk, right? With a lot of data comes a lot of risk, so you have to protect it. There is sensitive data, PII, PCI data, and lots of evolving laws, rules, and regs around how you manage it and protect the data for your, we call them members, but for your customers. I think the other thing is you need folks on your team that have the ability to understand, how does the business work? How does the business make money? How does a bank make money? So it would be nice, some days I wish I was just still sitting down in the basement of a bank somewhere in a corner writing code and not talking to anyone. But really, for us to find the value in data, we have to understand the business, build those business relationships with our product owners, our process owners, our channel owners, and figure out if we bring data to the problems that they're experiencing, what kind of value and opportunities exist there. And so I think it's that piece, building those bridges and being able to talk the language of business, educating your business partners on data and its value and how can you use it, is kind of a key part of the Chief Data and Analytics Officer. It's probably not as well talked about as, the modeling and how many petabytes of data do you have and what platform are you on and what tools do you use. But building those just foundational relationships with the business to understand what their main problems are is really critical. One last piece, kind of the secret sauce maybe to all of this, is you have to constantly drive innovation. This area, just like we talked about earlier, this area of data and algorithms and data science and even generative AI, can't go through a podcast without saying generative AI, right? But even these areas, they're evolving so fast, you have to constantly be pushing the envelope on innovation. And so some of the things that we drive here, just standard hackathons. We've done hackathons where we call it like speed dating. We bring a business people in, we set them at a table, and we send a group of data scientists at them, and they've got 2 minutes to describe their business problem. And then the data scientist team go table to all the business people, and they choose, okay, which problem do I want to try to solve over the next 2 days? And we invest a lot into these. The teams absolutely love them. And I don't think we've had one yet where we didn't at least get multiple patents and multiple millions of dollars of business value. So it just continues to press us forward to keep trying to stay on the cutting edge and use all these tools and all this data for real business value.
Yeah, awesome. I love a lot in there, and you did beat me to the AI bingo card first. So maybe we can come back to innovation as a topic, but you hit on something I want to get more your perspective on, the idea of getting value out of the data or aligning back to the business, because I think we are in a bit of maybe a swinging of the pendulum here where the focus is less on explainability or understanding how some of these technology work, like LLM or some of the generative AI, like it just works and it's cool and it's fun right now. But do you see like different use cases where things should be a lot more rigorous around the explanation and like the tie to value from data to the analytics, the insight back to the business? Or is there a use in a world where it's like, hey, it just works and let's roll with it and on to the next thing? Like, how do you think about it?
Yeah, there's definitely both an evolution and two categories of kinds of models and problems that you kind of solve. So start with the evolution of it. I can remember within my career having I won't say which company, even though I've already named them all, but somewhere back along that line, I had a boss that said, I don't believe in models. I think, we should underwrite loans by looking at their income and having a person judgmentally decide this or that. And so that was, again, that's within my career event horizon, right? So we're not that far removed from it, but we have come a long way now into saying, no, we can use models to help us make better decisions, even help us avoid some of the maybe subconscious biases that we as humans have when we look at data or make decisions like that. And I think that's where you have to pair it up with the laws, rules, and regs in this space, which really are put in place to help us not put in or allow those biases or, have people being impacted disparately across these different decision areas. So to kind of put a finer point on that, like a credit risk decision, should I extend credit to someone, yes or no, is one where, yes, there are opportunities for models, but it's probably not going to be it's a black box, the algorithm's always right, just trust it, right? We have to be able to show what's going on inside of the model. Once you get beyond, 2 or 3 way interactions of data variables, the brain starts going like, whoa, I don't understand this anymore, right? And some of these algorithms can have 16, 18, 20 way interactions of variables where our brain has no ability to comprehend how is it getting to its answer. But yet we can show through additional add-on analyses, is it doing the right thing? Is it making the right decisions? Are there disparate impacts? Are there unintended consequences of the model? And those things need to be layered on. And so, again, the credit risk decision is a key one. Obviously, Fair Credit Reporting Act and availability of credit to all are key reasons why and necessary so that we have a good, solid, and fair financial services industry. Some of the other areas, though, like who should we send a marketing mailer to? Actually, you and I used to do mailers back in the day, right? I don't even think they send out mail anymore, but maybe it's emails, right? Or alerts or those kinds of things. So if you send an alert, it's like, hey, are you interested in applying for a whatever? Or, hey, we've got a partnership with this other company. Would you like to see some of their things? Certainly it can be annoying to a member, but it doesn't really put them at risk. It doesn't put the company at risk. So there are some more innocuous kinds of things that we can be doing with the models and the AI to target and optimize in ways that we can't really see or understand. Maybe another one would be trying to figure out why is this customer calling and automatically route them to a customer service rep that is best suited to handle that kind of a problem. So again, not really harming the customer, trying to drive efficiency. Some of just those back office operational, fish where the fish are kinds of things are certainly there. And then when you start thinking about like the cool new kinds of generative AI solutions, man, I get excited. I want to be able to ask my supercharged digital assistants like, hey, go get me new homeowners insurance. And I want it to be able to go do that, right? And so you start getting into could we as a bank, could we as a country, could the government allow us to get to a point where we have digital assistants like that have the free reign to go out and solve these kinds of problems for us? Certainly it's easy now. It's like, hey, here's the entire year-end financial report for whatever company. Can you distill this down to the key points and compare it to their competitors? That kind of stuff is available. These administrivia kinds of things I want to be handled by AI and ML. And so I think in our personal lives and in areas outside heavily regulated businesses, there's probably more opportunities for it to serve us and create experiences that are very cool. Within financial services, obviously, and necessarily a highly regulated business, there's a lot more concern and caution and controls we need to wrap around it. Sorry, that was a long answer. Did I
You covered a lot. No, I like it. I think, one of the other things, there's again lots of like similarities in being aware of the history, like even with the more complicated models, maybe it's even more true, like the garbage in, garbage out, right? So you talked about generative AI and some of those, like, understanding the data that these algorithms and machines are using to base their recommendations or insights on is important. Even some of the changes in innovation I'm seeing more of being able to provide references or links. Like, here's why I'm giving you this answer. Or here's, maybe a study I've seen or other sites. So I do like you said, really excited about the space and the rate of change and the ability to add, more insight and speed to, I think, call back to what you were saying, like, the usefulness of these technologies really comes back to how individuals or members are going to get value out of them that we provide. So in terms of other innovations, the hackathon, I wanted to come back to that because I really like the idea of combining the business in that. A lot of the hackathons I see kind of come more ground up, engineers or programmers thinking about ways to make maybe their lives easier or some consumer focused, but usually generated from within those units. So was that something that was always a part of your guys' program to include the business, or I like that that combination?
Yeah, and it's something that's drilled into me. I had a really, really good manager at Chase, and again, I won't name names because I've had a lot of good managers through the years, but I can still hear his voice saying, "Solve business problems." Right? That's what the data analytics team was there to do. It wasn't to advance, the capabilities of science. We weren't doing science fair projects. We were there to solve real business problems, and that's something I've carried forward in my career, and I've really kind of preached that into my teams. Like, I will do hackathons. I'll do them monthly. I'll do them quarterly. I'll give out large prizes if you win them. But we're going to work on solving business problems if we're going to take them on. Not to say that there aren't opportunities in those back office roles in the data engineering space, especially with some of the generative AI auto code kinds of things, like if you think about in GitHub, or I've watched some of my team go from writing code longhand to all of a sudden it's just like they're just sitting there hitting tab, right? And it's like writing a line of code at a time, and they're just kind of overseeing it to make sure it all works. So certainly there are a large number of opportunities in the back office spaces for these kinds of things to have value. But again, at the end of the day, I think it is at USAA and kind of our focus on our mission and in serving our members. It's really about what's one more thing that we can do to take problems off of our members' plate and help them, achieve financial stability in their lives.
Yeah, totally agree. I like that approach. What other innovations have you seen in the past, couple of decades in terms of analytics, data insights, just that whole evolution within in that space?
Yeah, the I can remember kind of in my career. Again, I won't say where, but when we first built the data warehouse, right? And before that, I think everybody in the world was using what different names across different companies, but it's like some kind of a marketing extract file, MEF, or right. So they're like, hey, we pulled a file, and you guys can start using it. And we were doing analysis, and we were creating marketing files, and those kinds of things. And then we started loading those into a warehouse. And I can remember we loaded the very first month of data into the warehouse, and was like, all right, fantastic. It took 4 months to get the second month of data into the warehouse, but all of a sudden we had like time series data, and there's a whole new era of analyses that we could start doing. And when you start loading, those and constantly well-defined, structured data with quality, start putting that time series together, all of a sudden you can just bring data to problems. Like, here's how many widgets you do per time period and how many have errors, and just this entire amount of analysis that starts just bringing insights into problems. From there, you go on to building models and optimizing, and then auto optimizing these different things. And so that evolution has been very interesting to watch. I think in the modeling space, started out just with straightforward old linear regression, went to logistic regression, and then kind of at a point in time, it just seemed like this entire world of models and algorithms exploded on what was available to us. And next thing you know, we've got random forest and genetic models and just all kinds of things that increased the predictive power in these spaces. Now, again, that's where we started getting into, but can you explain it? So you had to be careful which algorithm you used. But certainly, over the last, 25, 30 years, we've seen an explosion of those kinds of models and algorithms available to us. The other thing I would say, I'm not a statistician. I don't have a degree in applied math and stats. But what I did was I learned that the tools that these algorithms come in make it easy for a person, even like myself, to be able to build models and deploy them and add value into the business. So the enablement of tools and just a significant increase of data storage, and compute horsepower has made modeling accessible to a much broader group of people. Certainly, I have tremendous respect for true applied math stats PhDs and majors, and I hire a ton of them. But I'm just saying there more and more people can play in this space given the advent of those tools as well.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I haven't gotten to the point where like I'm just tabbing through code yet, but I have found like some of these things do help. There's like an AI assistant debugging my code too. I can remember again, like getting started in the mainframe days, like you had the manual, you had your best attempt, and you had to debug it yourself. There was no like going out in Google or looking on forums and now to today, where if I've got something formatted weird or written slightly incorrectly, I can get help really on demand if it doesn't run and get that. So it has really democratized really the ability for folks without that deep training to maybe do more deep analysis or interesting things that previously unable to. Are you saying because of that, is data becoming more consolidated, or are there still silos that exist between, like credit and marketing, and like the use case kind of dictates the granularity and the types of data, or, how do you see those things kind of?
So yes, there are still definitely silos of data that exist. And so even within a company like a bank, there's historically been silos right across the different subject areas, and the advent of the warehouse or even a cloud-based architecture is allowing us to break down those barriers and build out environments where it's less out looking for data and its data availability instantaneously. I think the other thing is, this is again a little bit of an older buzzword, but the API architecture, right? So everything should be published and available via API. I think the biggest bridge or the biggest silo historically that is starting to get broken down is we take all those files, those marketing analytics files we talked about, or different feeds from different systems of record, and we build out this awesome analytical environment. And we put tools on it, and we have time series, and we can analyze. But the rubber hits the road when what you find in your analytics data, you can pump over into your operational space and actually impact what your member or your customer is experiencing. And that bridge, analytical to operational, to me, is the biggest silo of all, and one that we all need to keep thinking about. How can we build bridges, analytical to operational, to make new data widgets, algorithms, alerts, et cetera, rapidly available? You can just publish it via API to be consumed into the operational optimization engines, next best engines, those sorts of things. And so, yes, silos definitely do still exist, and we are silo busters, right? And in that data and analytics space and data scientist space, and need to continue to do so. I think when you start looking across industry, there are opportunities there as well, because there are very, very large silos across industries that probably need to be attacked or at least rationalized at some point in the future to think about what kind of experiences and value can we bring to consumers.
Yeah, that's good. I never thought of analytics, being a silo buster type of a job. I'm sure there's someone out on LinkedIn with that in their headline right now. Maybe
Yeah, probably. We should patent that. Let's get a patent on that real quick.
Exactly. But you've mentioned the cloud too. I'm assuming it's not your own cloud that USAA developed. So it makes me think, and this has come up with some other guests as well, like the idea of build, buy, or partner, like as you're in this space and it's constantly changing and growing, like how do you think about this is a core competency USAA should own, we got to develop this in-house versus there are people out there that just do it better, cheaper than us, and let's leverage their technology. Is there like a guiding principle you use, or how do you evaluate those situations?
Yeah, I think you have to be open to kind of all of the above, right? And I think it also goes by, the amount of maybe revenue your company has, or the economies of scale you've achieved. Do you have enough dollars to invest into yourself finding these new technologies, or do you need help? And so we think of it here as, or at least kind of my strategy has always been, for the knowledge workers, the people that really understand the data and the algorithms and how to draw value from our particular population, people that really want to draw value from our particular membership, those related to the military or their families. I want to keep that knowledge on site. I want to have them be employees. Now, if we're talking, though, architecture or platform or warehouse environment, I find that can be a little bit more outsourced, right? And so that's where we have been able to leverage, to your point, off-prem public cloud. And we have built pipes, large pipes. We've enhanced those pipes with AI and ML to test data that's going through those pipes out to the cloud, tested for sensitive data or for drift or for anomalies, if values of different metrics or things are migrating beyond an acceptable range. But yeah, it really is that opportunity that the people that have built the clouds and built the tools to get the data to the clouds are way better at it than we are. That's kind of their single focus. They optimize everything. And so taking advantage of that was a pretty easy decision, I believe, for USAA. And then as far as like tools and solutions, I think that kind of goes back to if you're big enough to generate and can afford hundreds of millions of dollars of investment into building out your own solution. There are a few banks that can do that. There's a few financial services companies that can do that. For the next tier, it probably is more of those consortiums or finding a company that does it, buying them, or using their products. But if you think about some of those problems that it would make sense for a consortium to tackle, like AML or fraud detection, where we're all fighting a common enemy, those kinds of things make a lot of sense. How to target Matt for our product versus someone else's. We're not going to probably share notes on that or collaborate. But some of the problems, I think, do make sense for the consortium approach to get after advancing your capabilities using these solutions.
Yeah, I think those are great examples, Chris, and it's been fun, like maybe thinking backwards a little bit to the things that have changed. But as you're looking to the future, like what are the things you've got your eye on for potential innovation that's continuing to happen, things that maybe aren't quite at a commercial scale yet, but you could see the potential? Like what's the future of data analytics got you excited?
Yeah, thanks. So there's a couple things that we've been playing around with, again, in the AI ML space. Think about edge computing. So how do we put algorithms and identification and predictive capabilities out onto the edges of this wide network, whether that be on your laptop, your iPad, your iPhone, or your cell phone of any manufacturer or operating system. But how do we put things there to observe and help our members figure out how to navigate our website or how to navigate our app? So there's some ideas and opportunities we think we have to play in that space, and then connect that back into our systems and applications as the member is navigating through our processes. I think, like if you think about what gets me most excited, especially working for USAA and for our membership, think about a scenario where, let's say, we have all the data for Matt and all of his transactions and all of his accounts, and all of a sudden we see a $60,000 remote deposit capture from his cell phone of a check. And then we have probably, I don't know, on average 4 seconds before Matt logs off. And we miss the opportunity to say something to Matt about that check. So what is that check? Is it normal for Matt to deposit $60,000, or is it an anomaly, outlier? Does it happen quarterly, annually? It's never happened before. All of those answers to those questions would help us give Matt advice on what he could do with that money, right? And we think that advice is one of our best products, and we want it to be one of our best products given the military that we serve. And so if you think about the data needed, so what I just described was transaction time series data that's been analyzed and categorized and bucketed into chunks where we can say, is this an anomaly or not? But then also it's like, well, it's quarterly, maybe it's an investment or dividends coming from stocks. It's a one-time thing. Maybe he just got a settlement for a lawsuit, or maybe it is a severance package. Sorry, maybe it's a severance, right? And there's so there's a job change coming. Maybe this is an inheritance. And so there's, again, a lot of different things. Every one of those things I've described would require a very different response in those 4 seconds to talk to Matt about what he could do about it. Some of the options, like, does he have a car loan that he could pay off? Does he have an investment property? Does he have an investment portfolio that he's saving for in the future? So again, all of those data elements coming together bring you more opportunity to say the right thing in those 4 seconds, the most meaningful thing to Matt, giving him the very best advice. I think of especially again serving the military. If we've got, say, a Navy nuke, so someone that is in the Navy, they're becoming a nuclear specialist, and they reenlist. The reenlistment bonus is quite sizable, right? It's a very, very important role. And so if let's say Matt was, hey, I just reenlisted, this was my reenlistment bonus, that next conversation should be, hey, Matt, we know you're probably going to go out and buy a new Ford Lightning or some big expensive car. But what if you bought a normal car and put half of that into retirement right now? At your age, that is going to set you up down the road. So imagine being able to have that kind of impact on a young service member's life, because all the data was in the right place at the right time. The algorithms recognized it and put forth the best advice that they could in those 4 seconds, right? So to me, that is the ultimate use case of, are we doing this right yet? And do we have all of the data coming together in a way where we can even have a chance at putting the best advice out to one of our members within that very short window of time that we have?
Yeah, that's really impactful, and I think you're right, especially with a business and a membership like USAA. That advice or that part of the relationship that you play is so critical, and maybe brings it back to some of the like foundations of banking and financial services, where every transaction did involve a human, right? There was always someone involved, usually someone you knew who had that personal connection, and a different form of database, right? Just through interactions with the person and knowing their situation. So how do you take the transactional data and make that personal again? I think is really could be powerful. Cool. Well, Chris, it's been great catching up. I think we've covered a lot today. Is there anything maybe we missed that you want to cover before we wrap?
No, it's great. I get excited getting together with other people in the industry that have thought about these kinds of things. I get excited about what the future can be. I wonder how much of this can come to fruition within our career lifetimes, or how much are we going to have hand off to our kids to finish this work. I keep telling my kids, man, data and analytics is still the opportunity of this generation. And they do not listen. But I hope maybe yours will, or other people that are listening to this podcast will have more success than I have had, convincing people that this is still an exciting, highly evolving, highly impactful field that is going to continue to grow and move forward.
Yeah, I don't know, Chris. I'm over 3. I've got one who wants to be a lawyer, one who wants to be an actress, and one who wants to be a YouTube star. So data analytics not really coming
No,
true.
sorry.
Not following in Dad's footsteps there, but yeah, a lot to be excited about. And thanks again, Chris. Hope to catch up again soon.
Yeah, of course. Great, man. Thanks.